to the MLB Pitcher Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay, taking a look at the pitching for the Sunday all-day slate. And there are some top options, some top price guys, but they're not necessarily in the best spots. Going game by game here, there's kind of a lot to talk about with most of these arms here.
So I was just kind of pondering. In the intro, I have to make the sound of the Cowboys shooting the guns in the air for people to actually see it. Correct?
Yeah. I mean, for the people, right? For the people that don't know, Russell will do the guns like this or go like that, and no one sees them. Yeah, nobody sees him, and so
nobody
it gets me to laugh.
me.
So yes, from now on, you have to do some sort of sound effect
that
cuts me off, and then you can do the guns. So would you like to do the guns for everyone?
Yeah, well, I just did, so I'm not doing it again. But
we'll do it again, just in case.
Just so people know, I was doing that for a solid 5 episodes until Jason was kind enough to let me know that it just wasn't. Nobody was seeing what I was doing. So anyway, that horrible non-segue brings us into a horrible non-segue worthy slate here for pitchers. I think we do have some pretty interesting options at the top, but in terms of cash, I mean, I'm just having a hard time seeing it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. I think with you, I think on what we're having a hard time seeing is these top price options justifying the price tag in their matchups. That's what the big issue is.
Right.
And jumping right into things, we're looking at the White Sox and Yankees, over under of 8 in Yankee Stadium. Masahiro Tanaka, Miguel Gonzalez. The Yankees are minus 170 favorites here. I do like Tanaka's price tag in comparison to some of the other options here. Obviously, this White Sox team is starting to come around a little bit. They do have a solid top half of the order. They don't strike out a ton, but still, you look at them in comparison to the other league, the matchup could be worse. And I think in this slate, I definitely don't mind Tanaka at that price tag in kind of all formats.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, he had that one weird start, but I think overall you're looking at a pretty strong starter for that price. And again, against Miguel Gonzalez, I feel pretty confident with that, and Vegas that he's going to get at least a really good shot at a win here. And I think this White Sox offense is really up and down against the righty. I don't think the splits are too strong for them. So yeah, I do like this for him. Not necessarily a cash arm or anything, but I do think this is pretty reasonable setup for him.
Yeah, I mean, you look at him, he's got the third best SIERA on the slate, a solid 22% strikeout rate, a very solid swinging strike rate of 13%. So I think he's very well in play. I think that price tag, I feel a little bit safer than paying for him instead of a guy like DeGrom, Hernandez, or Lester who carry a heavier price tag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, with Lester, that's pretty close for me in terms of value. But yeah, we were talking about DeGrom, and it's just tough to we'll get into it, but it's tough to pay up for him, even if he wasn't in Coors.
Yeah, definitely. And Miguel Gonzalez, on the other hand, not a big fan of him here in Yankee Stadium. A little bit home run prone. And with the Yankees being strong favorites, I expect most of the runs to come on that side.
Yeah, and a few weeks ago, I probably would have thought this was an interesting tournament play, but I think what we're seeing is the Yankees either are turning it around or they're hitting a strong spot in their season. So probably not an offense to really screw around with right now.
Yeah, definitely. Next one here, you got Twins and Indians, Tyler Duffy, Trevor Bauer. The really one that kind of intrigues me here is Bauer coming off his very strong start. Obviously, he started off in the bullpen this season. But Bauer at that price tag, I mean, very cheap against the Minnesota team that does strike out a ton. Bauer has that strikeout upside. He does have a little bit of a walk issue. GPPs, I really like him a lot. I think he's got a ton of upside from that price.
Yeah, I kind of dabbled in Joe Mauer last week. As you know, you'll probably know if you listen to the pods, but there's just not much upside with this Twins offense in terms of them putting together runs. So, well, I do think they have some young upside, and obviously Byung-Ho Park has been a monster for a little while a few weeks ago, but I'm not really really looking at much there.
Yeah, I think this Minnesota team against right-handers this season, obviously they have the big strikeout rate at 23%, 21st in WOBA. Bauer, I mean, obviously he's been in the bullpen today as a starter, so you figure he's pretty stretched out. I like the 24% strikeout rate he brings. I think there is some upside. There also is a pretty low floor, but at that price tag, I definitely don't mind him.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, on the other side, he's just not really a guy who's in play. Tyler Duffy against a tough Indians team.
Yeah.
So next one here, got A's and Rays, and over under a 7.5. Favorable ballpark here, Tropicana. Sonny Gray, Matt Moore, two arms that have been struggling, and I think this one might be one where if you looked solely at Vegas, you'd be like, okay, these two arms are in decent shape, and then you kind of look under the hood, and it's like, holy crap, I can't get behind these guys, you know?
Gray, I agree. I can't get behind. I kind of did one of those with Matt Moore. It's not a horrible spot for him. It's really not. I know he hasn't been great this year, but I think this is a pretty reasonable spot for him against the A's offense that is pretty inconsistent. And obviously Vegas is on Moore's side here at home, so I think he's a decent tournament arm, but not someone you want to share a bunch of shares of. Maybe just throw one in there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Moore is kind of my preferred play because of that price tag. 7,100 on FanDuel, not a bad option. Obviously 74 on DK. So I don't really hate that idea. And as you mentioned, the Rays favorite at home. You look at this A's team, and they're in 25th in WOBA against Southpaw. So more in a decent spot. It's just about consistency with him.
And with Sonny Gray, I don't think we can hold his last start against him. We didn't quite realize how awesome the Red Sox were just going to be every night. So him getting shelled by them, it's kind of like everyone's getting shelled by them right now. But he's just been struggling quite a bit. So it wasn't just that one game either.
No, it definitely wasn't. I mean, you look at the game before, 7 earned against Seattle. Obviously, he lasted much longer.
Yeah.
Detroit, 4 earned in 2 innings. I mean, before that, he was having a solid start, and he's another guy. His price has come up. Obviously, the Rays haven't been strong against right-handed pitching, but Gray's just been awful. He's just the guy who I'm going to need to see a string of starts where his deeper stats kind of back him up, and that's just not the case right now.
Right.
Next one you got Astros and Red Sox, Chris Davinsky, Sean O'Sullivan, a 10.5 over-under at Fenway. That screams, let's just skip this and move on because there's no way we're going to take any of these guys.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, there's nothing here. It's just pure chaos. That series is pure chaos from a pitching standpoint. So again, looking to stack it, but not looking to touch it with pitching.
Yeah, both sides fire at those stacks. Next one here, Tigers and Orioles, Mike Fulmer, Kevin Gossman, 8.5 over under. Baltimore big favorites here, -178. I like the way Gossman's pitched this year, and I still think this Tigers offense has been very, very up and down, and that big 25% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching, and the way those bats are swinging right now, Gossman kind of a borderline cash game play. I think I'm going to lean more towards GPPs with him, but at the price tag, I can certainly see getting behind him in cash games just because he kind of fits as a decent SP2 option.
Yeah, this all lines up for him pretty nicely. Price tag, Vegas, the offense he's going against, and he's been just pitching well. So I think this is a pretty decent matchup on him, righty versus righty, in most of the Tigers lineup. So yeah, I'm in on this matchup.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's a strong kind of SB2. I like him on FanDuel as a cheap GPP play, 7,700. Certainly definitely in play, especially around those other arms there. Next one here, you got Marlins and Nationals, and this one very, very interesting because we got really one of our first top-tier options, Jose Fernandez on the hill, taking on Joe Ross, obviously on the road. Fernandez, once again, for a guy who's priced up, very inconsistent on the season. Obviously, we know about the strikeout rate that he has. We know he can kind of bring it. Obviously, a 34.5% strikeout rate this year, 14.4% swinging strike. This Nationals team, outside of Daniel Murphy and Bryce Harper, it's kind of something you anticipate Fernandez just kind of cruising through.
Right. And maybe an average pitcher gets caught up with Rivera Rendon. But I don't think that's going to be what we see. And obviously Harper's coming back from suspension. It's really just Harper and Murphy. If you can get through those two guys, Zimmerman it's been a struggle. They tried to keep him in that 4 spot and he just isn't providing anything. So he's still in the lineup. I just don't see much upside with this Nationals offense other than Harper. But I mean, I'll take 2 to 3 walks from him if it gets us through the rest with Fernandez. So I'd imagine that's their plan. I believe Harper has like 17 walks in the last 7 games or something like that. So I'm in on Fernandez for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look, he's pitched against Washington earlier this season, 6 innings, 1 or 9 Ks. Strikeouts have been there over the last few games. 11 against Milwaukee, 7 against Arizona, 8 against LA. So he's starting to pitch a little bit well. Still not going tremendously deep into the game, but if he can get those strikeouts, he'd certainly be fine. And I just think on this slate, that's kind of the best matchup out of guys if you're comparing him to Lester. And I mean, Felix Hernandez has a solid matchup with the Angels, but they don't possess a ton of upside for him.
Right.
So. And on the other side, Joe Ross, I mean, he was a guy who has pitched well at times, but I think he's kind of coming back down to earth a little bit. And against this Miami team, I'm not really a big fan of targeting against them right now.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think he's a decent option, but this Marlins lineup's pretty sneaky, so I'm probably avoiding him.
Yeah, I agree. Next one here, Reds and Phillies. Dan Straley taking on Adam Morgan, 8.5 over/under. Vegas has this one as a pick. Your boy Dan Straley, any intrigue?
My boy.
Does he intrigue you a little bit tonight?
In short, yes. Just because of the price, I think he could get you 13 to 15 against the relatively weak Phillies lineup. I mean, we're fans of the Phillies lineup on here because they're always good values, but it just I think he could get away with maybe 3 or 4 earned and sort of getting you 12 to 15 points, which at that price isn't killing you on a DraftKings or something like that. So I think you're kind of looking at it that way, but obviously he doesn't have high upside. So for tournaments, I don't know. It's tough.
I mean, you're kind of looking at him as almost like an SP2 in a core stack more than anything.
Yeah, exactly. You need things to hit big for you around him, but if you're truly looking to get that Arenado or something in there, then yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the last 3 starts. I mean, he's been right around that point that you mentioned, 14.7, 14.9, 13.3. He's gone into the 6th inning or more in those 3 starts. 2 to 3 earns in about that start, about 4 to 5 strikeout rates. I think that's a reasonable expectation for him. I definitely don't mind the more I kind of glance at it. But also I could wake up tomorrow morning and be like, you know what? What am I thinking? I mean, how many beers did I have last night?
Yeah. Russ was talking me into Dan Straley.
Dan Day Drinking Straley. That's what we should call him. On the other side, Adam Morgan. I know this Reds offense has been fairly up and down. I'm not necessarily behind him in this matchup.
Yeah, no, I'm not touching him either. I like the Reds offense quite a bit more than the Phillies, so I don't think I can touch that.
Yeah, definitely. Padres and Brewers, Cesar Vargas, Zach Davies, over-under of 9. This is just a game where there's 2 bad arms on the hill. Really, none of these guys are even in play at all.
Yeah. Again, we're going to load up this Brewer stack again. Hopefully it works. But yeah, I mean, I'm always intrigued by pitchers against the Padres at this point, it seems. But even tonight, it just seems like a fade for me. Yeah,
definitely. Next one here, you got Braves and Royals and Matt Whistler, Danny Duffy. Danny Duffy, a former starter. KC big favorites, minus 177. This kind of presents us with a Dylan G situation again, where you can roll out another cheap SP2 and stack cores if you wanted to. 5,100 on DK against this Atlanta team that's just awful. I don't mind the way Danny Duffy's pitched in the pen lately. He's got a solid strikeout rate. If he can carry that over into a starting role, he should be a fairly good arm tonight.
I like it. Again, I'm okay with going at the Braves here, even with a reliever. I think this can work. Every time you're at 5,100 and you're looking up slotting someone in, you got to take that deep breath before you actually do it. But hey, it could be a junior type situation, Junior Guerra the other day ended up working out. So I actually think he's in a pretty solid position to succeed. And he has pitched well out of the bullpen, like you mentioned. So yeah, I'm okay with this for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And this one's kind of a tricky game here. In Wrigley, Pirates and Cubs, Garrett Cole versus John Lester. John Lester carrying the high price tag. I feel like I want a little bit more upside for that price tag than what I think I'm going to get here. Just because you're looking at this Pirates team that kind of wears you out against left-handed pitching.
Right.
The way they hit, I mean, right now they rank in the tops of the league. Obviously, they have a high strikeout rate against lefties. So it's kind of one of those, maybe if Lester's completely on, he can have one of those big 7-8 strikeout games and pitch well. But also I can see maybe him only getting 15 points. And it's like, I could have gotten that production from so much cheaper. I think that's how I view Lester.
Could have gotten 15 from Dan Duffy, man.
Yeah. So it's like, I could have paid $5K less for Dan Duffy to get similar price, production here.
Yeah. I mean, I think Lester always has some pretty reasonable upside here, but against this Pirates lineup, it's going to be tough. Obviously, he's in a good spot to get the win with that offense behind him, but yeah, no, I agree. In terms of the higher ups or higher priced guys, he probably has a little risk there.
Yeah. And I think if we're looking at top price guys, I think he comes in third for me. Mm-hmm. I still think Fernandez is the top. I still like Tanaka a little bit more than Lester. I think that's kind of how I rank those top options. And I just think Felix, I mean, we'll talk about him a little later, at that price tag, just not enough for me.
And then Garrett Cole, you can't really do that unless you're a monster against the Cubs.
Unless you're just a diehard Pirates fan.
Yeah.
A homer.
Can't do it.
No. And speaking of can't do it, let's talk about this next one, Blue Jays and Rangers, over under 9.5. Aaron Sanchez has pitched well this season. You're looking at him against the Rangers team that's heavily left-handed. That's a little bit concerning for me. He had a struggling first inning against them at home. I still think upside's a little bit limited more than what his other matchups have been this year.
I'm okay with him at his price. I think he could get you 20 points if the Rangers have a down day, but obviously in your range of outcomes, I'd say 3 out of 10 times he has a really good start against them, but then there's that other 7, that isn't really going to get you to where you want to be. So I think he's sort of a tournament play at this point that maybe people aren't going to want to pay that 8K price tag for. But other than that, I don't think you're really looking at him in cash or anything like that.
Yeah. And let me ask you a question. How do you feel? Where would you rank him in comparison to Gausman and Bauer?
Yeah, I would put him below both of them as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
And Ramos on the other side, lefty against Toronto. Sorry, bud.
Sorry, pal.
Yeah, there's no way.
You know what? Although it's getting close to where I gotta jump on the sword or jump on the grenade again for this Toronto stack to start hitting again. But we'll save that for a few days from now.
Let's save it for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Next one here, you got the Angels and Mariners, Hector Santiago, Felix Hernandez. Seattle decent favorites here, minus 177.5 over under. The price tag is my biggest gripe with Felix at this point.
Yeah.
He's 400 less than Fernandez on DraftKings. He's 10,300 on FanDuel. I don't like the price tag for a guy who's not pitching like an ace and delivering that high K upside that I want.
I just don't see the upside for me to ever sort of pivot off of him. I mean, I get trying to be contrarian off of Fernandez, but I don't really see it here working out in your favor necessarily unless Fernandez somehow gets shelled or something. So I don't see him as a pivot option really. Obviously, you can always be contrarian in a tournament, but not something I'll be doing, I don't think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And Hector Santiago on the other side, I know it's a spacious ballpark against a heavily left-handed team, but he's always due for his regression. I'm just not really a fan of his.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Next one here, you got Mets and Rockies and Jacob deGrom, Tyler Chatwood, over under 10. DeGrom's at a higher price tag that you want, and he's not quite been himself this season. I think something is up with him. We haven't really seen him be quite his dominant self, and obviously, then you throw him in Coors, no way.
Again, right, like you mentioned, if he was his normal self and he was sort of being dominant, I could see a contrarian, even though it's Coors, maybe he could just outpitch the park that day type of move, but there just hasn't been that upside, and the price is so much in terms of what you're going to have to sacrifice in the batting order. So I'm not really touching him.
Yeah, I agree. And Tyler Chatwood on the other side, obviously a far less skillful pitcher against his Mets lineup in Coors. Tyler Chatwood's had some success this season, but overall, not a big fan.
Not looking to play pitchers against teams that are projected for 5 runs. Just my thing. I don't know.
Yeah, call me crazy. Next one here, you got Giants and Diamondbacks. Matt Cain, Ruby De La Rosa, over under of 9. Ruby De La Rosa has pitched pretty well this season. I mean, he's had some good starts, especially of late. Going up against a Giants team, because De La Rosa's price has come up a little bit against this Giants squad, they don't strike out a lot, which is my concern. They walk a fair amount, just a 15.5% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. I don't see the upside there as far as De La Rosa's had kind of in his past few starts against teams that still have been good, but also have a higher strikeout rate.
Yeah, I'm with you. You kind of look through. I want to start a campaign to call him Rubby. By the way, I don't care. I think I could get a pretty decent backing at some point. Maybe get a retweet by Trump or something, and then we could really get the ball rolling. But in terms of his price, he's kind of in that same range with Gaussman for me. I actually do think he's in a pretty decent spot here against a Giants lineup that obviously you don't want to target against, but I don't think they're a powerhouse either. So I think he's a pretty intriguing tournament contrarian option at that price.
Yeah, I can find Rubby.
Rubby, man, I'm telling you, I think he would become a better pitcher too. Like, I know what people say in terms of economics, like your name changes, like your future. I think if he became Rubby, like, that dude's an ace. Rubby De La Rosa is an ace, man.
It completely changed the game plan and his mental output as far as getting on the mound.
Yeah.
He steps up to plate and he's like, I'm Rubby De La Rosa. I'm going to nail these guys now.
It's Rubby? Holy crap.
Because Ruby, you're like,
Ruby, he's like a nice guy. He'll like help you. He'll like inflate your tire or like buy you a tire on the side of the road if he sees you or something. But I don't know.
Rubby's driving.
He's driving right by.
Nope, he's in his Ferrari driving 110 on the I-90.
Yeah, he's not trying to help you at all.
And dare we say the name of Matt Cain?
We're coming for Matt Cain. I can confidently say that.
Yeah. Throw his last start against the Jays in the garbage, in your recycle bin, and empty that trash can because you know what? Matt Cain is not a good pitcher. You target against him and you never use him.
Go to the trash can and check to see if there are any important things that maybe you don't want to delete first, and then delete. Yeah. Yeah,
that's true.
But yes, agreeing with you here. I think we're coming after him with Paul Goldschmidt and the whole group of Diamondbacks. They're going to be getting there. What are the things called with the spiky ball and the?
I know what you're talking about. I don't know the name.
Yeah, well, if you know the name of that, comment in the comments because we're gonna. I think it might be a mace. Might be a mace.
It would be greatly appreciated, but yes, I know what you're talking about. And the only weird reason I'm just going to bring up a childhood story real quick is because I played with the Fisher-Price Castle. And so they had one of those things where you could attach it to the thing. And here I am, 8 years old, playing with one of those freaking things, whipping it around. But let's move on to the Sunday night game before I get carried away and lost in our.
You've been training all these years for Matt Cain.
Yeah. Last game of the night, Cardinals-Dodgers, Mike Leake versus Alex Wood. Two pitchers that, once again, are not very good. I'm a little bit surprised that it's a 7.5 over-under. I think we should take that with a grain of salt there because I think both these offenses could get to these pitchers pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not really touching this game from a pitcher standpoint.
No, thanks. That's great analysis.
That's all I got. I've actually been kind of biasing myself towards this Cardinals team of late. Even though, sometimes when teams have good offenses, but they're never in your lineups, and you're like, all right, I got to figure something out here. What's going on?
Yeah.
So I've been gaining respect for them lately. So I'm not really touching Alex Wood, I don't think.
Yeah, and the way Mike Leake's pitching, he pitches to contact, relies on BABIP. I don't want to take a guy like that. He's got zero upside, faces a team that's heavily left-handed. I think you can see a possible Dodgers stack go off for pretty cheap tonight.
I'm with you.
So that's going to wrap things up with the pitcher nail down. Be sure to check out DailyFantasyCafe.com for all our great tools and content.